What up, Crowdfunding Nation? Today we are talking about Kickstarter statistics going into 2024. So these are going to be the aggregate overall statistics that have happened on Kickstarter, and I'm going to go through and sort of dissect these a tiny bit, get into some of the things that you should be aware of, some of the opportunities, some of the weaknesses that I as well see when it comes to the Kickstarter platform, and really get into this for you if you're interested in launching a campaign this upcoming year. If you're interested in raising money, gathering a fan base, getting a product out there, be that a physical product, something more technology related, could be a comic book, a card game, a board game, raising money for a new book which you're publishing, or even your music. We're going to be talking about that in today's YouTube video, so stay tuned, and it's coming up right after this. All right, man, again, my name is Salvador, or Sal. I'm based in Miami, Florida. And ever since I actually went to school at George Washington University in Washington, D.C., I have been in love with statistics around crowdfunding, and also stats in general I think are really interesting. But I ended up doing a logistic regression when I was at George Washington University. I did an econ thesis, a mini econ thesis, basically talking about the different categories on Kickstarter and how at the time, all stats were just kind of compiled together and there wasn't really anything delineated when it comes to different categories. And my hypothesis was that if you launch, for example, in like the dance category or the music category, your social network or different variables that affect success are going to be different than if you launch in, say, the technology category. And it also turned out to be right. And it kind of was the initial basis of my career. And when I started my blog, crowdcrux.com, started to share some of my findings, people started to love it. I started my podcast in 2015, where I've really interviewed over 400 people, case studies of people that are raising money every single week with crowdfunding, not only Kickstarter now, but also Indiegogo, equity crowdfunding, WeFunder, Start Engine, you name it, even nonprofit crowdfunding. So what I've tried to do with these statistics today and also in the past is share with you what's happening from more of a scientific angle. So I hope that you enjoy this video. I hope that it's not too boring. It doesn't make your eyes glaze over the way it used to, like in really boring stats class, right? But I hope that you enjoy it and you also take this a little bit with a grain of salt. So let's get this up there on the screen if we can when it comes to Kickstarter's stats. So first of all, this is going to be in aggregate since the beginning, the start of the Kickstarter platform. And I think this has been insane, the level of impact that this platform has had. So I'm going to read this a little bit on my iPad as we're going through, and we're going to dissect this. So first of all, overall 7 billion, over 7.7 billion has been pledged to Kickstarter projects from the beginning of Kickstarter inception as a website. They've had over 200,000 successfully funded projects. One of the big stats here that I really want to point out is that there is actually an ecosystem at Kickstarter. So if you think about like Amazon, for example, there are people that are regularly backing projects. They are called super backers, okay? So someone who's backed, for example, 50 plus projects on Kickstarter. There are 22,638, 929 total backers on Kickstarter. And in terms of repeat backers, there are 7,802,871 repeat backers. So if you think about this, I'm just doing the math in my head right now, about a third of the people who have backed a Kickstarter campaign have gone on to back another Kickstarter campaign, which is phenomenal, right? So this is something where if you're looking to launch a Kickstarter campaign this upcoming year, you should be aware that there are people out there that are backing projects serially. And if you have a really great product, a really great project, you can naturally stand out to the crowd. So let's go here to the projects and dollars. So first of all, we'll go through all, and then we'll kind of narrow in on some of the larger categories, then talk about the smaller categories, talk about some strengths and weaknesses when it comes to doing this and launching this. So overall, if we look at this, there have been over 610 projects that have been launched, 7.7 billion like we talked about. There have been as well a lot of live projects, as you can see here. Currently, there's over 3,000 live projects on Kickstarter, and live dollars, 57 million. So what I want to point out to this at this point is the aggregate success rate. And I think this is so incredibly important. Actually, one of the reasons why I started my blog back in 2012 for crowdcrux.com, the success rate of Kickstarter projects is overall 41.5%. This means that if there are 100 people in a room, and all of those 100 people launch a Kickstarter campaign, the majority of them will not be successful. Around 41 of them will be successful. You have 100 people in the room, right? So what does that mean? That means those 41 people are people that you should be studying. That's literally why I started my podcast, Crowdfunding Demystified, why I publish a version of that on YouTube, on iTunes, on Spotify, is because I want to document exactly what those 41 people are doing and share it with you for free, my friends. This is the best you can get, right? So this is really what I try to do. And there are hallmarks and sort of tried and true practices which you can employ in order to be more successful than other people that are out there. And also some of the tricks of the trade that they don't really tell you that they're doing behind the scenes. So let's take a look now at categories. So there's a lot of different ways in which we can kind of dissect this. First of all, if you go to Kickstarter.com, this is all publicly available information. So first of all, what I want to go through is I want to go through successfully funded projects really quickly, and then we'll kind of go into some of these other variables. So if we look at successfully funded projects, we toggle this down by the most successful categories, most popular categories of successfully funded projects. It starts off at the top, we'll do the top 5, are games, music, film and video, art, publishing, and design. So that's actually 6. And then we get more into comics, technology, fashion, food. And then from there, it kind of goes into smaller categories, which are like theater, photography, crafts, dance, journalism, right? So in looking at this, if you are trying to raise money for a game, or if you're trying to raise money for a music project, if you're trying to raise money for art or a novel, or even something that's more like a physical product, which you might sell, you're in really good company because there are so many other projects that have been successfully launched on Kickstarter. Same would be true as well of comics, technology, and fashion. I would say that if you're in the categories of raising money for a dance project or something like photography related, or maybe even a theater project, you can do it, but there's not as many successful projects of that nature when it comes to Kickstarter.com. And it actually helped a lot of people raise money for theater projects as well in New York City. So it is something which you can do. There's just a bit of a different unique strategy when it comes to that. If we now take a look at the breakdown, I'm going to go aggregate. The breakdown of there's less than 1,000 which has been raised by the projects. There's then 1,000 to 10,000, 10,000 to 19,000, 20,000 to 100,000, and then 100K to 900K, and then 1 million plus. So in thinking about this, you can kind of almost visualize this as a little bit of a funnel. So it starts off where the vast majority of projects which have successfully raised money are between 1,000 to 10,000. And that really corresponds as well to music projects and to games, film and video, art, because music projects tend to be raising, I'd say, around $10,000, maybe 10,000 to 50,000 bucks. I have a great course out there actually sharing with you how to raise 10 to 50,000 when it comes to a music project, which goes beyond the scope of this video. But anyway, so yeah, 1 to 10,000 is kind of the largest number there when it comes to that. 132,000 which have raised in that category. Then we have in terms of less was around 32,000, 10,000, 20,000, around 36,000, 38,000 was 20 to 99. So of the two, we'd say 1,000 to 10,000 is one of the more popular ones. Then it goes to 20,000 to 100K is also the second most popular volume when it comes to the amount that people are raising. And then it gets more into the 100K to a million, which was 10,000 projects have raised 100K to a million. And then 782 have raised 1 million or more. So to this, what I would say is that it really depends on the category in which you're raising money. And the great thing about these stats is that it is broken down by category. So you can go and you can see this. You can actually see in real time the data when it comes to different categories. So for example, if we take the design category, the vast majority of projects we can see here are 1 to 10,000, and then the second biggest would be 10,000 to 19,000. Versus if we contrast that, let's pull up the music category. The vast majority, 24,000 projects have been raised, the 1,000 to 10,000 category. So you can kind of see a little bit of this in your own time. I don't want to go too deep into the stats when it comes to this, but depending on which category in which you're launching in, your expectations to raise money might be different. I would say when it comes to a gadget, something that's more technology related or more design product related, I typically see more larger successful campaigns in those categories. So for example, raising like 250,000 to 450,000 is gonna be much easier to do if you have a physical product which you are selling versus if you have like a CD or an album which you're selling. So you can take away some information when it comes to that. Want to take all the stress out of fulfilling your Kickstarter rewards? Fulfillrite is the turnkey solution that puts product delivery on autopilot. The Top Campaigns uses trusted high-tech provider to store, package, and ship their products. Focus on growing your business. Leave shipping to the experts. Don't wait. Get a custom quote from Fulfillrite today. Link in the description. I really think it's important to contrast the number of projects which have been launched and been successfully funded with actually the funding dollars. Because this kind of gives you a clearer idea of the size of the market, if you will, when it comes to certain categories. So let's take a look at this. So if we toggle this by total dollars, or we can do successful dollars, And let's toggle this by that. We then see that games is representative of over 2 billion when it comes to that category. Design and technology, as we predicted, are much higher amounts, right? So they did 1.5 billion when it comes to design, 1.3 billion when it comes to technology, and then film and video coming in next at around 478 million. You can also see, if you on the right here, the actual percentage success rate when it comes to these different categories. So let's actually toggle this as we'll go here, and we'll go from top to bottom. So the most successful categories are in comic books is number 1, 2 is dance, then theater, then music, then games. So if we actually go to the lowest here, what we'll see is that the least successful category tends to be in technology. And then also we see low success rates when it comes to some other ones like fashion, publishing, and then kind of going up from film and video. So what I should take away here, first of all, is that just because you have a really big category, for example, you have technology and tons of people that are successfully raising money in technology, there's also a lot of people that are not successfully raising money, right, in technology. You can take away from that data. The second thing is that comics, to me, are really low-hanging fruit, and more people should be launching comic book campaigns because it's pretty clear not only is there an appetite for that, but it also has the highest success rate on Kickstarter. So if you have a comic book, that should be very encouraging, right, when it comes to you as a category. And like I talked about before, just because we have a category which is maybe a little bit smaller, for example, the dance category or the theater category, it has the highest success rate, or the top 3 highest success rates on Kickstarter at 61% and at 59%. 61% being the dance and 51 being the theater category. So it's not just all about the number of projects that are being launched, it's also the successful funding dollars, basically how big is that category in terms of funding dollars, but also the success percentage within that category. That's gonna tell you a lot in terms of, is this a good category to launch in? Is this something you're gonna need to be more prepared to be successful? Or is this something where if this is your first campaign, for example, like a comic books campaign, you actually stand a pretty good chance of being successful? The last section I want to go through when it comes to some of the stats here, and then we'll kind of get into some quick takeaways, would be unsuccessfully funded projects. And I think this is actually very valuable information as well, because it tells you if you get to a certain amount when it comes to your funding meter, how likely are you to be successful. So if we take a look at unsuccessfully funded projects, if we scroll down to the bottom of the screen here, we can see unsuccessfully funded projects based by category. So I'm going to toggle this by the largest categories here. So of the unsuccessfully funded projects, the biggest ones are film and video, games, technology, publishing, and music. Again, these are some of the larger project categories as well, so there's no surprise there. If we see the breakdown here, and we're gonna look at aggregate, okay? So aggregate, the breakdown, 0% funding, we have 56,000 projects. 1% to 20% funded, we have 234,000. 21 to 40%, we have 37,000. 41 to 60%, we have 16,000. 61% to 80%, we have 7,000 funded, and then 81% to 99%, we have 6,000, a little bit over 6,000 that has been funded. So what I take away from this data is that, first of all, the vast majority of projects on Kickstarter which have been unsuccessful, if we're just talking about raw numbers, are between 0% funding, they got no funding whatsoever, and then a huge amount in the 1 to 20% funded. And then lastly, in the 21% to 40% funded. So if we just take 0% up to 40%, that comprises the vast majority of campaigns on Kickstarter that have not been successful. What I would take away from here actually has a lot to do with what I talk about in my free Kickstarter course. So I have a free course out there going through step-by-step how to launch a successful Kickstarter campaign and some of the tricks of the trade as well that people don't tell you about behind closed doors in order to be successful, to get rapidly funded, to make sure that you're standing out amongst the crowd and you're getting people to take action and back you on the actual Kickstarter platform. So when it comes to, if you want to get strangers to support your campaign, I talk about how to do that in the free Kickstarter course at the link crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. So one of the tenets that I talk about in that course is that you need to get to a certain amount percentage funded in order to stand the chance of being much more successful. And as you can see here from the data, even between 0% to 20%, if you get over that hump, you are far more likely to be successful. And if you get over the 40% hump, it gets a lot more looking in your favor, right? When it comes to being successful, because there are a very small number of projects that get between, let's just say, 60 to 90% funded, and they aren't successful on Kickstarter. So that's one major takeaway from this section. The second takeaway that I want to highlight from this section has to do with music and also film and video. So music, I have actually a whole bunch of videos out there dedicated to just raising money successfully in the music category, where I collaborated with Ian Anderson. I have a great free course out there on how to do a music crowdfunding campaign. I have some books out there and also have an incredible course as well, advanced crowdfunding system for musicians. So that goes beyond the scope of this video. But if we look at 0% funded, and to me, this is people who just didn't prepare, they didn't take action, they didn't even get their friends to support the campaign, right? Clearly, this is someone who just kind of launched, right? And they didn't really have any kind of preparation or planning. And that's the one that I'm trying to help. That's what I'm doing with my videos, with my podcasts, with my blog articles. I'm trying to help put out high quality education. So if we look at 0% funded, the biggest in need, if you will, categories are film and video, music, publishing, and lastly, technology. Of those, I would say that usually for someone who's doing music or film and video or publishing, they've never really had to market themselves. Same true a lot when it comes to technology, but there's usually a little bit better systems around that. But music, film and video, and publishing, these are the biggest categories that have a whopping 0% when it comes to the number of people that have funded those projects. So if you are in launching in one of those categories, what you should take away from this video is that do your preparation, learn about marketing, join free courses that are out there, read books. I have a great book out there, The Kickstarter Launch Formula, available on Amazon and also on Audible. Sink your teeth into education because you need to learn how to market if you are doing one of those categories, because again, the vast majority of people are not getting even any funding on those categories when it comes to unsuccessfully funded projects. So let's get into a couple of takeaways when it comes to these statistics and how this applies to you if you're launching a Kickstarter campaign this upcoming year. So first of all, if you are going to be coming out with a new product, if you're going to be coming out with something new you're bringing to the world, to the universe, you're impacting the world in a great way, man, that is incredible. And you are definitely within the ethos of this channel and my work. So congratulations to you that you're even embarking on this journey. Now, what I would say is that if you're doing an upcoming Kickstarter campaign, be aware of some of the statistics that we talked about. So first of all, being aware of your category, specifically how big is that category that you're gonna be launching in? What are the success rates like within that category? And also, what are the common funding amounts when it comes to that? I would say that for those people out there that don't want to just raise $5,000 or $10,000, but you're really trying to go much bigger. You're trying to get not just like a single base hit, but you're trying to get either a third base or a home run. It really pays dividends to invest as a piece of this process. Invest in your own education. Take the time to read some books, to learn some things about this ecosystem, because there's a tried and true paint by numbers formula which you can follow to be successful. And if you're in one of the major categories out there, other people are already being successful. And that's one of the things I try to do and document on my podcast. Another big takeaway here is that this is all about triggering the Kickstarter algorithm. The sooner you get funding, the sooner you get to a certain percentage, the more likely you are to be successful. And you've seen that as well with the statistics here today. So make sure that you're taking action quickly when you go live, that you're getting funding, that you're actually triggering the Kickstarter algorithm, which is designed to show certain projects to those super backers, those people that are regularly backing projects. Again, about 1 out of 3 are repeat backers when it comes to Kickstarter. And in that way, you can sort of have the wind at your back when it comes to your sales. If you're going down this little river here in a sailboat, you got the wind at your back. Last item I will talk about in this video is that if you really want to make progress towards your goals and you're at the point where you're ready to invest in the process and you really want to get a trained eye to assess your strategy, to give you feedback every step of the way, to hold your hand through this process, and you want to make sure that you do it right. You're doing it by the book, that you're making sure that if you're going to be launching this and spending so much time and energy and funding even into getting this project up off the ground, that you have a strong foundation when it comes to your campaign. Go down below and you can book an individual one-on-one coaching call with me. You just got to fill out this little form, tell me a little bit more about you, what your goals are, how much you're trying to raise, your objectives, tell me a little bit about your background, and we can get that call scheduled ASAP. And in that way, I can have all of this information that's been stored in my mind over the last 10 plus years, this like library of information, and apply that to your unique case and help you be successful much faster. It's probably one of the best investments which you can make aside from reading books or taking courses, etc. When it comes to that, and if you really just want to skip the line and put this on light speed, one of the best options that you have available to you out there. I hope you enjoyed this video, whether it's the morning or the night, or you're at a cafe, or you're listening to this in the car, or you're doing your dishes, whatever. Hope you take some action this week. And if you do, if you're committed to that, let me know by leaving a comment down below. Give me a thumbs up on this video if you did enjoy it. Come subscribe if you'd like to be a part of this community and get notifications from me. I put out videos pretty much every single week to help you and hold your hand throughout this process, and also to kind of encourage you to reach bigger, to go bigger with your vision, because you're already going to be working hard. And to be honest, it takes around the same level of energy to launch even a small project that's only raising like 50K versus a big project which is raising 500. You're going to be doing it anyway. You're going to be going through the trenches, learning a ton, going down this journey. So why not think big? Hope you enjoyed this video. My name is Salvador Brigman, and I will see you next time.